You know what Muhammad Ali said? He said, "I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit, suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." That man understood something that most people will never understand. The suffering isn't the problem. The suffering is the pathway. The suffering is what transforms you from who you are into who you need to become. Everything is possible. Not because I'm standing here telling you some fairy tale. Because I've seen it. I've watched people who had every reason to fail turn their entire life around. I've watched people who came from nothing build empires. I've watched people who were told they'd never make it prove everyone wrong. And you want to know the secret? There is no secret. They just refuse to accept the limitations everyone else accepted. Steve Jobs said it perfectly. He said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." You hear that? Crazy enough, because to everyone else, you're going to look crazy. When you're working at midnight while they're sleeping, when you're studying while they're partying, when you're building while they're relaxing, they're going to think you've lost your mind. Good. Let them think that, because while they're judging you, you're becoming someone they can never touch. Everything is possible when you understand that your current reality is not your destiny. It's just your starting point. Rocky Balboa said, "It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And life is going to hit you. It's going to knock you down. It's going to make you question everything. But the question isn't whether you're going to get hit. The question is, what are you going to do when you do? Most people get hit once and they're done. They take one failure and they turn it into their whole identity. I tried and it didn't work. Yeah. How many times did you try? Once? Twice? Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before he invented the light bulb. 10,000 times. And when someone asked him about it, you know what he said? "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not optimism. That's a warrior mentality. That's refusing to let circumstances define you. Everything is possible when you stop living for comfort and start living for purpose. Bruce Lee said, "A goal is not always meant to be reached. It often serves simply as something to aim at. But most of you aren't even aiming. You're just drifting. You're letting life happen to you instead of happening to life. You're reacting instead of creating. You're surviving instead of thriving. And I get it. I understand. It's scary to want something. It's terrifying to put yourself out there and risk failing. It's easier to play it safe. It's easier to stay small. It's easier to blend in. But you weren't made to blend in. You weren't made to be average. You weren't made to live a life of quiet desperation where you go to bed every night wondering what could have been." Winston Churchill stood in front of his nation during the darkest hour and said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. The courage to continue. Not when things are easy. Not when you're winning. When everything is falling apart. When the walls are closing in. When every rational voice is telling you to quit. That's when courage matters. That's when character is built. Everything is possible when you embrace the grind. When you fall in love with the process instead of just chasing the result." Kobe Bryant said, "Everything negative, pressure, challenges, is all an opportunity for me to rise." That man got up at 4 in the morning. 4 in the morning. While everyone else was sleeping, he was working. While everyone else was comfortable, he was pushing himself to the limit. And you know what happened? He became one of the greatest to ever do it. Not because he was lucky, because he was obsessed. You think greatness just happens? You think champions are born? No, they're forged. They're created in the moments when nobody's watching. In the early mornings, in the late nights, in the repetitions that nobody sees, in the sacrifices that nobody appreciates. That's where legends are made. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. And when he got out, he could have been bitter. He could have been angry. He could have sought revenge. But instead, he said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." He chose to rise. He chose to build instead of destroy. He chose purpose over pain. Everything is possible when you decide that your past doesn't get to dictate your future. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what you've been through. I don't care how many times you've failed or how many people told you that you weren't good enough. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time, didn't make his high school team. And he used that rejection as fuel. He said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." You hear that? That's why he succeeds. Not in spite of failure, because of it. Failure is the tuition you pay for success. Failure is the education. Failure is what teaches you what doesn't work so you can find out what does. But most people can't handle failure. They take it personally. They let it break them. They let it convince them that they're not good enough. Everything is possible when you understand that your mistakes don't define you. Your response to them does. Will Smith said, "There's no reason to have a plan B because it distracts from plan A. You need to burn the boats. You need to go all in. You need to commit so fully to what you're building that failure isn't even an option. Not because you're guaranteed to succeed, because you're willing to die trying. That's the mentality. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Dreamers talk about what they're going to do. Doers show up every single day and do the work even when they don't feel like it, even when it's hard, even when nobody's cheering for them. Arnold Schwarzenegger came to America with nothing, couldn't speak English, had no connections, no money, just a dream to be the greatest bodybuilder in the world, and people laughed at him. They said his accent was too thick. They said his body was too big. They said he'd never make it in Hollywood. And you know what he did? He proved every single one of them wrong. He said, "Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. Everything is possible when you decide that other people's opinions don't matter more than your vision." Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Your belief determines your reality. If you believe you're limited, you'll find evidence of that everywhere. If you believe you're capable of anything, you'll find evidence of that instead. So what do you believe about yourself? Do you believe you're someone who starts things and doesn't finish them? Do you believe you're someone who had potential but wasted it? Do you believe you're someone who's going to look back with regret? Or do you believe you're someone who's going to change the game? Someone who's going to build something remarkable? Someone who's going to make an impact? Maya Angelou said, "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Life is going to knock you down. That's not a maybe. That's a guarantee. You're going to face rejection. You're going to face failure. You're going to face pain. But you get to choose whether that breaks you or builds you. Everything is possible when you understand that discipline is destiny." Jocko Willink said, "Discipline equals freedom." And people don't get that. They think discipline is restrictive. They think it's about denying yourself. But it's the opposite. Discipline is what gives you freedom. The discipline to wake up early gives you freedom with your time. The discipline to work out gives you freedom with your health. The discipline to save money gives you freedom with your finances. Your daily habits are either creating the life you want or destroying it. There's no in between. Every choice you make is either moving you closer to your goals or further away from them. Every time you hit snooze instead of getting up, every time you scroll instead of working, every time you make an excuse instead of making progress, you're voting for who you're becoming. And right now, if you're honest with yourself, who are you voting for? Are you voting for the champion, or are you voting for the person who almost made it, the person who had potential, the person who talked a big game but never backed it up? Theodore Roosevelt said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. Everything is possible when you get in the arena, when you stop watching from the stands, when you stop being a spectator in your own life, when you get your hands dirty and you actually try. Because here's what I know, you're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to look foolish sometimes, but at least you'll be in the game, at least you'll be trying, at least when it's all said and done, you'll know you gave it everything you had." Les Brown said, "Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars." But most people aren't even shooting. They're not even trying. They're living safe little lives where they never risk anything and they never gain anything. They're dying slowly in jobs they hate, in relationships that drain them, in lives that feel like prisons. Everything is possible when you decide that you'd rather die trying than live wondering. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." And I'm asking you right now to examine your life. Look at it honestly. Are you proud of what you see? Are you becoming who you want to become? Or are you settling? Are you making excuses? Are you playing small because it's safe? You've got one life, one shot at this, one chance to see what you're really capable of, and you can spend it playing it safe, or you can spend it going all in on your dreams. You can spend it comfortable, or you can spend it building something that matters. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. He went bankrupt multiple times. His first animation company failed, and he kept going. He said, "All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them." That's the key word. Courage. Not certainty, not comfort. Courage. Everything is possible when you have the courage to bet on yourself. When you have the courage to walk away from what's killing you even if you don't know what's next. When you have the courage to start over. When you have the courage to admit you were wrong and change direction. When you have the courage to stand alone if that's what it takes. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Who are you when things get hard? Who are you when nobody's watching? Who are you when you could quit and nobody would blame you? That's who you really are. That's your character. Everything is possible when you build character instead of just chasing success. Because success without character is just empty achievement. It's hollow. It doesn't satisfy. You can have everything and feel nothing if you don't like who you became to get it. But if you build character, if you become someone of integrity, someone of discipline, someone who keeps their word, someone who shows up, someone who finishes what they start, someone who treats people right, someone who does the right thing even when it costs them, that's success. That's victory. That's what you take with you. Vince Lombardi said, "The price of success is hard work, dedication to the job at hand, and the determination that whether we win or lose, we have applied the best of ourselves to the task at hand. The best of ourselves, not half effort, not when we feel like it, the best." Everything is possible when you give your best to everything you do, when you refuse to be mediocre, when you refuse to mail it in, when you treat every moment like it matters because it does. Every conversation, every workout, every task, every choice, it all matters. It's all building something, and you don't know which moment is going to be the one that changes everything. You don't know which connection leads to the opportunity. You don't know which workout builds the habit that transforms your body. You don't know which decision creates the momentum that changes your life. So you treat them all like they matter. Denzel Washington said, "Dreams without goals remain dreams, just dreams, and ultimately fuel disappointment. Goals on the road to achievement cannot be achieved without discipline and consistency. You need both. You need the dream to inspire you, and you need the discipline to build it. You need the vision to pull you forward, and you need the habits to get you there. Everything is possible when you marry your dreams with your discipline, when you stop just wishing and start working, when you stop just hoping and start doing, when you stop waiting for the perfect moment and you make this moment perfect by what you do with it." Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Everything you need is already inside you. All the strength, all the courage, all the potential. It's already there. You just have to access it. You just have to believe it. You just have to act on it. Everything is possible because you're possible. Because you're here. Because you're breathing. Because you have another chance. Another day. Another opportunity to become who you're supposed to become." Gandhi said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world. Start with yourself. Transform yourself. Become the person you admire. Build the character you respect. Live the life you're proud of. And watch how everything else falls into place. Everything is possible when you stop making excuses and start making history. Your story, your legacy. The one you're writing right now with every choice you make, with every action you take, with every moment you either rise or you settle. So rise. Rise like you were meant to. Rise like there's something in you that refuses to die. Rise like you understand that this is your one shot and you're not going to waste it. Rise like a champion, like a warrior, like someone who knows that everything is possible because you're the one making it possible. You see, there's this thing that happens when you finally commit, when you finally stop playing around and you get serious about your life. The whole universe starts to shift. Opportunities that weren't there before suddenly appear. People who can help you show up. Resources you didn't know existed become available. But none of that happens until you make the decision, until you draw the line in the sand and say, this is it. This is where my old life ends and my new life begins. Jim Rohn said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Look around you right now. Who's in your circle? Are they lifting you up or dragging you down? Are they pushing you to be better or making excuses for why you're not? Because if you want to know where your life is headed, just look at the people closest to you. They're either helping you build or helping you stay stuck. Everything is possible when you get ruthless about who gets access to you. When you understand that your time is the most valuable thing you have and you stop giving it away to people who don't appreciate it. When you stop entertaining relationships that drain you. When you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You've got to protect your energy like it's the most precious resource on earth. Because it is. You can make more money. You can't make more time. You can replace things. You can't replace the mental and emotional energy that gets wasted on people and situations that don't deserve it. Elon Musk works 100 hours a week. 100 hours. And people say he's crazy. People say he's obsessed. And he is. He's obsessed with changing the world. He's obsessed with pushing humanity forward. He's obsessed with doing things that people say are impossible. And you know what he said? When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Everything is possible when you care about something more than you care about being comfortable. When you have a mission that's bigger than your fear. When you have a vision that pulls you forward even when everything in you wants to quit. Most people don't have that. Most people are just going through the motions. They wake up, they go to work, they come home, they watch television, they go to sleep, and they do it again the next day, and the next, and the next, until one day they wake up and they're 60 years old and they realize they never actually lived. They just existed. Is that what you want? Is that the life you're building? Because if it is, fine, but be honest about it. Stop pretending you're going to do something different someday. Stop pretending you're going to start that business or write that book or get in shape or travel the world. Either do it or admit that you're choosing comfort over growth. Confucius said, we have 2 lives, and the second begins when we realize we only have one. When are you going to realize it? When you're 40? When you're 50? When you're 70 and it's too late to do anything about it? Or are you going to realize it right now while you still have time to do something about it? Everything is possible when you understand that time is running out. Not to scare you, but to wake you up. To make you understand that every day you waste is a day you'll never get back. Every opportunity you pass on might not come around again. Every dream you postpone might die before you get around to it. Look, I know this sounds harsh. I know this isn't the motivational speech where I tell you that you're perfect just the way you are and that everything's going to work out. Because that's a lie. Everything's not going to work out unless you make it work out. You're not perfect just the way you are. None of us are. We're all works in progress. We're all building something. And the question is whether you're building towards something great or building toward regret. Jack Ma failed his college entrance exam twice. He applied to 30 different jobs and got rejected by all of them. He applied to Harvard 10 times and got rejected every single time. And now he's one of the richest people in the world. He said, never give up. Today is hard. Today is hard. Tomorrow will be worse, but the day after tomorrow will be sunshine. Everything is possible when you understand that your current struggle is creating your future strength, that every rejection is redirection, that every failure is feedback, that every setback is setting you up for a comeback. But you have to keep going. You have to keep pushing. You have to refuse to let circumstances define you. You have to look at the mountain in front of you and decide that you're going to climb it no matter how long it takes, no matter how hard it gets. No matter how many times you fall. Because here's what happens when you do that. You become someone different. You become someone stronger. You become someone who other people look at and say, how did they do that? And the answer is always the same. One step at a time. One day at a time. One decision at a time. Colonel Sanders was 65 years old when he started KFC. 65. Living off a small social security check. And he took his chicken recipe, and he drove around the country getting rejected over 1,000 times before someone finally said yes. He said, "I made a resolve then that I was going to amount to something if I could, and no hours, nor amount of labor, nor amount of money would deter me from giving the best that there was in me." Everything is possible when you refuse to use your age as an excuse, when you refuse to use your circumstances as an excuse, when you refuse to use anything as an excuse, when you just decide that you're going to make it happen no matter what. I've watched people transform themselves in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. I've watched people who were broke become millionaires. I've watched people who were overweight get in the best shape of their lives. I've watched people who were depressed find purpose and meaning. I've watched people who were alone build amazing relationships, and every single one of them will tell you the same thing. It started with a decision. It started with them saying enough is enough. It started with them deciding that they deserved better than what they were settling for. Tony Robbins said, "It's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped, not your moments of comfort, not your moments of ease, your moments of decision. When you choose, when you commit, when you say this is who I'm going to be and this is what I'm going to do." Everything is possible when you make decisions based on your goals instead of your feelings. When you understand that feelings are temporary, but results are permanent. When you do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. You think successful people always feel motivated? You think they always feel inspired? They don't. They have days where they're tired, days where they're discouraged, days where they question everything, but they show up anyway. They do the work anyway. They keep moving anyway, because they understand something fundamental. Motivation is great when you have it, but discipline is what carries you when you don't. Discipline is what separates professionals from amateurs. Discipline is what turns dreams into reality. David Goggins said, "You will never learn from people if you always tap dance around the truth." So here's the truth. You're not going to feel like doing the work most of the time. You're not going to feel motivated. You're not going to feel inspired. And if you're waiting to feel that way, you're going to be waiting forever. Everything is possible when you stop waiting to feel ready and you just start. When you stop overthinking and you take action. When you stop planning and you execute. Because perfect plans don't mean anything if you never implement them. Perfect timing doesn't exist. Perfect conditions don't exist. There's just now and what you do with it. Look at Oprah. She was born into poverty. She was abused. She was told she wasn't pretty enough for television. And she became one of the most influential people on the planet. She said, "The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams." Everything is possible when you understand that your story isn't written yet, that your past doesn't determine your future, that where you came from doesn't determine where you're going, that what happened to you doesn't determine what happens through you. You get to choose. You get to decide. You get to write the next chapter. And it doesn't matter if the first 20 chapters were terrible. Chapter 21 can be different. It can be better. It can be the beginning of everything you've been waiting for, but only if you make it that way. Only if you take responsibility for your life. Only if you stop blaming and start building. Only if you stop complaining and start creating. Zig Ziglar said, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Start messy. Start scared. Start without all the answers. Just start, because starting is what separates the people who make it from the people who don't. Everything is possible when you take that first step, when you apply for that job, when you start that business, when you join that gym, when you have that conversation, when you make that call, when you take action on the thing you've been thinking about for years. And yeah, it might not work out. You might fail. You might look foolish, but you might also succeed. You might also build something amazing. You might also become someone you're proud of. And isn't that worth the risk? J.K. Rowling was a single mother living on welfare when she wrote Harry Potter. She was rejected by 12 different publishers before someone finally took a chance on her. And now she's one of the most successful authors in history. She said, "It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all." Everything is possible when you embrace failure as part of the journey. When you understand that every successful person failed multiple times before they made it. When you see rejection not as the end but as part of the process. Thomas Jefferson failed in politics before he became president. Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before he won. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 times. The Beatles were told they had no future in music. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. You think any of them would have made it if they quit after the first failure, the first rejection, the first setback? They wouldn't have. They made it because they kept going. They kept trying. They kept believing even when nobody else did. Everything is possible when you believe in yourself more than you believe in your doubts. When you trust your vision more than you trust your fear. When you commit to your dreams more than you commit to your comfort. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm saying it's going to be worth it. I'm saying that when you're 80 years old looking back on your life, you're not going to regret the things you tried and failed at. You're going to regret the things you never tried at all. You're going to regret playing it safe. You're going to regret not taking the chance. You're going to regret not betting on yourself. You're going to regret listening to people who told you it wasn't possible instead of listening to yourself. Bob Dylan said, "What's money? A man is a success if he gets up in the morning and goes to bed at night, and in between does what he wants to do. That's success." Living life on your terms, building something that matters to you, becoming someone you respect. Everything is possible when you define success for yourself instead of letting society define it for you. When you stop chasing what other people want and start building what you want. When you stop trying to impress people who don't matter and start trying to become someone who does. Your life is yours. Your dreams are yours. Your potential is yours. And what you do with all of that is up to you. Nobody else can live your life for you. Nobody else can chase your dreams for you. Nobody else can become who you're supposed to become. That's your job. That's your responsibility. That's your calling. Albert Einstein said, "The woman who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. The woman who walks alone is likely to find herself in places no one has ever been before." You've got to be willing to walk alone sometimes. You've got to be willing to be misunderstood. You've got to be willing to go against the grain. Everything is possible when you stop following and start leading. When you stop copying and start creating. When you stop living someone else's dream and start building your own. I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't one of those talks where I tell you it gets easier. It doesn't. What happens is you get stronger. You get tougher. You start understanding that the ground isn't your enemy. The ground is just feedback. The ground is just telling you that you tried something, and now you know what doesn't work. Most people hear that and they think it's just words. They think it's just something that sounds good in a speech. But I'm telling you, there's a difference between the person who falls once and stays down, and the person who falls 10 times and gets up 11. That difference isn't talent. It's not genetics. It's not having the right connections or the right circumstances. It's a decision you make in a moment when every part of you is screaming to quit. Let me tell you about that moment, because we all have it. That moment where you're so tired you can barely think straight, where you've given everything you had and it still wasn't enough, where the people you thought would support you are nowhere to be found, where you look at your bank account or your body or your relationships and you think, what's the point? Why keep going when it keeps going wrong? That moment is the whole game. That's where champions are made, not in the victory, not in the celebration. In that dark moment when you're alone with yourself and you have to decide who you really are. You want to know what I've learned from watching people who actually made it? The ones who went from nothing to something real. They all share one quality that nobody talks about. They're comfortable being uncomfortable. They don't need permission to start over. They don't need encouragement to get back up. They just do it because that's who they decided to be. Think about it. When you were a kid learning to walk, you fell constantly, every single day. And you know what you did? You got back up. You didn't think about it. You didn't analyze it. You didn't wait for the perfect conditions. You just stood up and tried again. Because you wanted to walk more than you wanted to stay safe on the ground. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. We started thinking too much. We started making the fall mean something about us. We started telling ourselves stories about why we can't, why we shouldn't, why it's too late or too hard or too risky. But here's what I know. That story you're telling yourself, it's not the truth. It's just fear wearing a mask. Fear dressed up as logic. Fear pretending to be wisdom. The truth is simpler. The truth is you fell. That's it. You tried something and it didn't work out the way you planned. Now you've got information. Now you know something you didn't know before. Now you get to decide what you're going to do with that information. Are you going to let it define you? Are you going to let one failure or 10 failures or 100 failures tell you who you are and what you're capable of? Or are you going to use it? Are you going to take that pain and turn it into fuel? I'm not talking about toxic positivity here. I'm not telling you to pretend it doesn't hurt. It hurts. Of course it hurts. You put yourself out there. You risked something. You cared about something enough to try. And when you care, failure stings. That's how it's supposed to work. But there's a difference between acknowledging pain and living in it. There's a difference between feeling hurt and making hurt your identity. You can sit with the pain for a night. You can feel it fully. You can cry or scream or punch a pillow or write in your journal. Do what you need to do. But when the sun comes up, you make a choice. You decide if yesterday's failure gets to write today's story. I've seen people throw away years of their life because they couldn't get past one bad season. They had one business fail, one relationship end, one dream not work out the way they imagined. And instead of seeing it as part of the process, they saw it as the end of their story. They stopped trying. They settled. They told themselves they gave it their best shot, and it just wasn't meant to be. And maybe that's fine for some people. Maybe some people are okay with that. But I don't think you're one of them. I don't think you'd be here if you were okay with settling. I think you're still here because somewhere inside you, there's a voice that won't let you quit. A voice that keeps saying, get up, try again. You're not done yet. That voice, that's the real you. That's the version of you that knows what you're capable of. That's the version that sees past the current circumstances and remembers why you started in the first place. Let me ask you something. Why did you start? What was it that made you believe this was possible? What was the vision that got you moving in the first place? Because I guarantee you, that vision is still valid. The circumstances might have changed. The timeline might have shifted. The path might look different than you thought. But the core of why you wanted this, that hasn't changed. You wanted to build something. You wanted to become someone. You wanted to prove to yourself that you could do hard things. You wanted to create a life that felt like yours, not just one you inherited or fell into by default. That's still on the table, all of it. The only difference between now and then is that now you know more. Now you've tested yourself. Now you've got scars that prove you were willing to step into the arena. Most people never even get that far. Most people live their whole lives wondering what if. You don't have to wonder. You know what it feels like to try. You know what it feels like to fail. And now you get to know what it feels like to get back up. Here's something nobody talks about. The comeback is always more powerful than the first attempt. Always. Because the first time you do something, you're running on hope and excitement. You don't really know what you're up against. But the second time, the third time, you know exactly what it takes. You know what's coming, and you choose to do it anyway. That's a different level of strength. That's a different level of commitment. When you pick yourself up again, you're not just trying, you're declaring something. You're saying, I don't care how many times I have to do this. I don't care how hard it gets. I don't care if nobody believes in me. I believe in me, and that's enough. You know what the world does when it sees that kind of determination? It gets out of the way, because most people quit. Most people fold under pressure. Most people take the easy path. So when someone shows up with real commitment, with real hunger, with real refusal to stay down, opportunities start appearing, doors start opening, people start noticing, but it doesn't happen overnight. And that's where most people lose it. They get back up, they try again, and when they don't see immediate results, they assume it's not working. They assume they're wasting their time. They start listening to that voice again, the one that says, maybe you're not cut out for this. Let me tell you about that voice. That voice is going to be there forever. It doesn't go away. Even the most successful people you know still have that voice. The difference is they don't let it drive. They hear it, they acknowledge it, and they keep moving anyway. You think every successful person wakes up feeling motivated? You think they all have their life together? You think they never doubt themselves or wonder if they're on the right path? They do, all the time. But they've learned something you need to learn. Feelings are not facts. Doubt is not truth. Fear is not a prophecy. You can feel afraid and still take action. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. You can feel like you're failing and still be making progress. Because progress isn't linear. It's not this neat upward line that goes from point A to point B. It's messy. It's all over the place. It looks like failure sometimes when really it's just preparation. Think about a seed underground. It sits in darkness for weeks. Nothing visible is happening. To an outside observer, it looks like nothing's working. But underground, Roots are spreading, foundations are being built, strength is being developed, and then one day, boom, it breaks through the surface and everyone acts surprised. But the seed knew. The seed was working the whole time. That's you right now. You're underground. You're in the dark phase where nothing seems to be happening, where all your effort feels invisible, where you're wondering if any of this matters. But I'm telling you, it matters. Every single thing you're doing right now is building something. You just can't see it yet. So what do? You keep watering yourself. You keep feeding yourself. You keep showing up even when there's no evidence it's working. Because that's what growth requires. That's what transformation demands. You can't rush it. You can't force it. You just have to trust the process and do the work. And I know that's hard. I know you want proof. I know you want a sign that you're on the right track. But sometimes the only sign you get is the fact that you're still here, still trying, still fighting. That's the sign. That's the proof. The fact that you haven't quit yet means you're stronger than you think. You know what happens when you fall and get back up? You learn something about yourself. You learn that you're tougher than your circumstances. You learn that pain is temporary but quitting lasts forever. You learn that the worst thing that can happen isn't failure. It's never trying again. I've watched people sabotage themselves because they were so afraid of failing again that they stopped trying. They built walls around themselves. They played it safe. They chose security over possibility. And you know what happened? They regretted it. Every single one of them looked back years later and wished they had kept going. Wished they had taken the risk. Wished they had believed in themselves just a little bit longer. Don't be that person. Don't let fear steal your future. Don't let one bad season convince you that you're not meant for greatness. You are. You absolutely are. But greatness doesn't come to the people who quit. It comes to the people who get back up. Again and again and again. Here's what I want you to understand. Every successful person you admire has a graveyard of failures behind them. Every single one. They just don't lead with that. They don't make their identity about the times they fell. They make their identity about the fact that they got back up. You've got a choice right now. You can make this fall your story. You can tell everyone about how you tried and it didn't work and that's why you stopped. Or you can make the comeback your story. You can tell everyone about how you fell and got back up and kept going until you made it happen. Which story do you want to tell? Which person do you want to be? Because I'm going to be honest with you. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to pick you up and dust you off and tell you exactly what to do next. That's your job. You're the one who has to decide that you're worth fighting for. You're the one who has to believe in yourself when nobody else does. You're the one who has to get up in the morning and choose to try again. And that might sound lonely. It might sound unfair, but it's also the most empowering thing I can tell you, because it means you don't need anyone's permission. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need perfect circumstances or the right timing or a clear path forward. You just need you. You just need the decision to not give up on yourself. I know you're tired. I know you've been through it. I know there are days where you feel like you've got nothing left to give, but you do. You've got more than you think. You've always had more than you think. You just haven't been pushed far enough to see it yet. That's what the fall does. It shows you what you're made of. It strips away all the surface level stuff and gets down to your core. And at your core, you're stronger than you believe. You're more resilient than you know. You're more capable than you've given yourself credit for. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to stop looking at this fall as a failure. You're going to start looking at it as information, as education, as preparation for what's coming next. Because something is coming next. Something better. Something bigger. But only if you get back up. You're going to take what you learned from this experience and you're going to apply it. You're going to adjust. You're going to adapt. You're going to come back smarter and stronger and more focused than you were before. And when you face that same obstacle again, you're going to handle it differently because now you know better. That's how growth works. That's how you become the person who achieves the goal. You don't start off knowing everything. You don't start off perfect. You start off willing. Willing to try. Willing to fail. Willing to learn. Willing to get back up. And every time you get back up, you're building something. You're building character. You're building resilience. You're building the kind of strength that can't be taught in a classroom or learned from a book. You're building the kind of strength that only comes from lived experience, from real struggle, from choosing yourself when it would be easier not to, that strength, that's what's going to carry you through everything else that comes your way. Because this won't be the last time you fall. Life is going to knock you down again. Different circumstances, different challenges, but the same fundamental question. Are you going to stay down, or are you going to get back up? And the more you practice getting back up, the easier it becomes. Not because the falls hurt less, but because you start to trust yourself. You start to know that no matter what happens, you've got what it takes to handle it. You've proven it to yourself over and over again. That's the real victory, not the external achievement, not the success that other people can see. The internal knowledge that you are someone who doesn't quit, someone who doesn't back down, someone who faces hard things and comes through them. You know what confidence really is. It's not thinking you'll never fail. It's knowing that even if you do fail, you'll figure it out. You'll survive it. You'll learn from it. You'll keep moving. That's real confidence. That's real power. And you build that one decision at a time, one morning at a time, one moment of choosing to try again when everything in you wants to give up. That's how you become unstoppable. Not by never falling, by never staying down. So let me ask you again, why not you? Why can't you be the person who turns this around? Why can't you be the comeback story? Why can't you be the one who proves everyone wrong, including yourself? There's no good reason. There's no logical reason why someone else deserves success more than you do. The only difference between you and the people you admire is that they refuse to quit. That's it. They just kept going. They fell. They got back up. They fell again. They got back up again. They did that until something clicked, until something worked, until they broke through. And you can do the same thing. You have the same 24 hours. You have the same ability to make decisions. You have the same access to information and resources and opportunities. The only question is whether you're going to use them. Are you going to use this pain? Are you going to use this failure? Are you going to use this setback as fuel or as an excuse? Because it can be either one. It's your choice. Most people use it as an excuse. Most people let their circumstances dictate their future. They point to what happened and say, see, this is why I can't. This is why I'm stuck. This is why I'll never make it. But you're not most people. You wouldn't still be here if you were. You'd have quit already. You'd have moved on to something easier. But you didn't. You're still thinking about it. You're still feeling that pull. You're still hearing that voice that says you're capable of more. Listen to that voice. Trust that voice. Follow that voice. Because that voice knows something your fear doesn't. It knows what you're actually capable of when you stop holding back, when you stop playing small, when you stop protecting yourself from the possibility of failure. You know what the saddest thing is? It's not falling. It's not failing. It's not even staying down. The saddest thing is living your whole life wondering what would have happened if you had just tried one more time, if you had just given it one more shot, if you had just believed in yourself a little bit longer. Don't do that to yourself. Don't carry that regret. Don't be 80 years old looking back and wishing you had been braver. Be brave now. Be brave today. Be brave in this moment when it's hard and scary and uncertain. Because here's what's on the other side of that bravery. Freedom, pride, self-respect. The knowledge that you didn't let fear win. The knowledge that you gave everything you had. The knowledge that you lived your life on your terms, not on the terms of your circumstances or your fears or other people's opinions. That's what this is really about. This isn't just about achieving some external goal. This is about who you become in the process. This is about building a relationship with yourself where you know you can count on you, where you know that when things get hard, you don't abandon yourself. You show up, you do the work, you keep the promises you make to yourself. That relationship with yourself is everything, because you can lose money and make it back. You can lose opportunities and new ones will come. You can lose relationships and build new connections. But if you lose trust in yourself, if you lose respect for yourself, that's the thing that's hardest to rebuild. Every time you quit on yourself, you damage that relationship. Every time you give up when things get hard, you're teaching yourself that you're not reliable, that you can't be trusted, that when push comes to shove, you fold. But every time you get back up, you're rebuilding that trust. You're proving to yourself that you're serious, that you're committed, that you mean what you say. And over time, that adds up, that compounds. That becomes an unshakable foundation that no one can take from you. So this isn't just about picking yourself up again. This is about who you're becoming. This is about the person you're building. This is about the life you're creating through your choices and your actions and your refusal to quit. And I'm telling you, that person is worth fighting for. That life is worth building. You are worth the effort it's going to take. You are worth the pain and the struggle and the uncertainty. Because on the other side of all that is a version of you that you can't even imagine right now. A version that's stronger and wiser and more capable than you ever thought possible. But you have to walk through the fire to get there. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to face the fear and the doubt and the pain. You have to be willing to fall and get back up, again and again and again. That's the price. That's what it costs. And it's worth it. I promise you it's worth it. Because the alternative is living a life of regret. The alternative is playing it safe and wondering what could have been. The alternative is settling for less than you're capable of because you were too afraid to find out what you could actually do. Don't settle. Don't play small. Don't let this moment define you in the wrong way. Let it be the moment that changes everything. Let it be the moment you decided that you were done staying down, that you were done making excuses, that you were done letting fear run your life. Let this be the moment you take your power back. The moment you remember who you are and what you're capable of. The moment you decide that your dreams are worth fighting for and you're willing to do whatever it takes. Because that's what separates the people who make it from the people who don't. It's not talent or luck or circumstances. It's the willingness to keep going when everyone else quits. It's the willingness to believe in yourself when no one else does. It's the willingness to get back up one more time than you get knocked down. You've got that in you. I know you do. You've already proven it by making it this far, by surviving everything you've been through, by still being here, still thinking about it, still feeling that pull towards something more. So trust it, trust yourself, trust the process, and pick yourself up again and again and again, as many times as it takes, because you're not done yet, not even close. Your story is still being written, and the best chapters are still ahead of you, but only if you get back up, only if you keep going, only if you decide right now, in this moment, that you're not going to let this be the end. You're going to let this be the beginning of your comeback, the beginning of your breakthrough, the beginning of you becoming everything you were always meant to be. Let me tell you something else. You know what happens when you stay down, when you let that failure become your final chapter. You don't just lose the dream, you lose yourself. You lose the person you could have been. You lose the respect you have for the face in the mirror, and that's a price that's too high to pay. I've seen it happen. I've watched people give up on themselves and then spend the rest of their lives trying to justify that decision. They create entire narratives about why it was the smart choice, why it was the mature thing to do, why walking away was actually the brave move. But deep down, they know they quit on themselves, and that knowledge eats at them every single day. You don't want that. Trust me. You don't want to be the person who has to convince themselves that giving up was okay. You want to be the person who can look back and say, I gave it everything. I left it all on the field. Win or lose, I showed up fully. And here's the thing about showing up fully. When you do that, even if you don't get the outcome you wanted, you still win. Because you get to keep your self-respect. You get to keep your integrity. You get to keep the knowledge that you didn't back down from the challenge. That matters more than most people realize. That's the stuff that sustains you through everything else in life. That's the foundation you build all your other decisions on. That's what makes you someone who can be counted on. Not just by others, but by yourself. Think about the people you respect most in your life. I bet they're not the people who had it easy. I bet they're not the people who never struggled. I bet they're the people who faced something hard and found a way through it. The people who got knocked down and stood back up. The people who showed you what resilience looks like in real life. That's who you get to be. That's who you are being right now, in this moment. As you decide whether to get back up, you're showing yourself and everyone around you what you're made of. You're demonstrating that you're not just talk, you're not just dreams and wishes. You're action, you're follow through. You're the kind of person who backs up their words with their behavior. And that's rare. That's actually rare in this world. Most people talk a big game. Most people have big plans. Most people will tell you all about what they're going to do. But when it comes time to actually do it, when it comes time to face the discomfort and the fear and the possibility of failing again, most people disappear. Don't be most people. Be the exception. Be the one who actually does it. Be the one who proves that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they refuse to quit. Because that's the secret nobody tells you. Extraordinary isn't about being born special. It's not about having advantages others don't have. Extraordinary is just ordinary people who kept going when everyone else stopped. That's it. That's the whole mystery. They just didn't quit. You think Michael Jordan never missed a shot? You think he never had a bad game? You think he never doubted himself? Of course he did. But he kept shooting. He kept playing. He kept showing up. And over time, that persistence turned into greatness. You think every successful entrepreneur nailed it on their first try? Most of them failed multiple times before they figured it out. But they treated each failure as a lesson, as data, as information they needed to get better. They didn't take it personally. They didn't let it stop them. They just adjusted and tried again. That's what you're learning to do right now. You're learning to separate the failure from your identity. You're learning that just because something didn't work doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you tried something and it didn't work. Now you know. Now you can try something different. And that's powerful. That's actually a superpower if you think about it. The ability to fail and not be destroyed by it. The ability to take a hit and keep moving. The ability to face rejection or disappointment or setback and say, okay, what's next? Most people can't do that. Most people take one failure and they internalize it. They make it mean something about their worth or their potential or their future. They let it define them. They let it limit them. They let it stop them. But you're different. You're building a different relationship with failure. You're starting to see it for what it really is. Not the end, just part of the process. Just one step on a longer journey. Just feedback from the universe about what direction to go next. And when you can do that, when you can fail without being crushed by it, you become dangerous. Because now there's no limit to what you can try. There's no limit to how many times you can experiment. There's no limit to how far you can push yourself. Because you're not afraid of the fall anymore. You know you can handle it. That's freedom. That's real freedom. Not the absence of challenge. Not the absence of difficulty. But the knowledge that you can face anything and come through it. That's what you're building. That's what getting back up over and over again gives you. And I'm going to tell you something else. Every time you get back up, you're not just building your own strength. You're giving permission to everyone watching you. You're showing them that it's possible. You're proving that regular people can overcome hard things. You're being an example of what's possible when you refuse to stay down. That matters. That ripples out. That affects people you'll never even know about. Because people are watching. They're watching to see what you do next. They're watching to see if you mean it. They're watching to see if you're really about that life, or if you're just another person who talks but doesn't walk. And when they see you get back up, something shifts in them. Something opens up. Because if you can do it, maybe they can too. If you can face your fear and keep going, maybe they can face theirs. If you can pick yourself up after falling, maybe they can too. That's the responsibility that comes with getting back up. You're not just doing it for you anymore. You're doing it for everyone who needs to see what courage looks like. For everyone who needs proof that it's possible. For everyone who's on the edge of quitting and needs one more reason to keep going. You get to be that reason. You get to be that proof. You get to be that example. And yeah, that's pressure, but it's also purpose. It's also meaning. It's also a reason to get out of bed and keep fighting even when you don't feel like it. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about you achieving your goals. This is about you becoming the kind of person who inspires others to pursue theirs. This is about you raising the standard for what's possible. This is about you showing the world that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. And you do that one decision at a time, one moment at a time, one choice to get back up at a time. It's not complicated, it's just hard. But hard doesn't mean impossible. Hard just means it's going to require everything you've got. And you've got it. You absolutely have what it takes. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission or tell you it's going to be okay. You're ready now. You've always been ready. You just need to decide. Decide right now that you're getting back up. Decide that this fall doesn't get to be your final chapter. Decide that you're worth fighting for and you're going to prove it through your actions, not just your words. And then start. Start small if you need to. Start scared if you have to. But start. Take one step. Make one move. Do one thing today that moves you forward. And then tomorrow, do it again. And the day after that, do it again. And keep doing it until it becomes who you are, because that's how transformation happens. Not in one big dramatic moment, in 1,000 small moments where you choose to keep going, in 1,000 small decisions to not give up, in 1,000 small actions that add up to something significant. You've got this. I know you do. You've already survived everything that's tried to break you. You've already made it through every hard day you thought you couldn't get through. You've already proven you're stronger than you think. Now you just have to keep proving it. Keep showing up. Keep fighting. Keep believing. And one day, you're going to look back at this moment, and you're going to be so proud of yourself for not giving up. You're going to see how far you've come, and you're going to realize that every fall was worth it. Every struggle was worth it. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't was worth it. Because you're going to be standing in a life you built through sheer determination and refusal to quit. You're going to be living proof that dreams don't die unless you let them. You're going to be the person you always knew you could be if you just kept going. But that only happens if you pick yourself up. Again. Right now. Today. This moment. This is your moment. This is when you decide. This is when you prove to yourself and everyone else that you're serious, that you're committed, that you're not going anywhere. So get up. Dust yourself off. Take a deep breath. Look that challenge in the eye and say, not today. You don't get to beat me. I'm getting back up. I'm trying again. I'm going to keep going until I make this happen. And then do it. Actually do it. Don't just think about it. Don't just feel inspired for a moment and then go back to your old patterns. Actually change. Actually commit. Actually follow through. Because that's what separates the people who make it from the people who don't. Follow through. Action. The willingness to back up your words with your behavior day after day after day, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, even when nobody's watching and nobody would know if you quit. You would know. And that's what matters. You have to live with yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror every single day. You have to know whether you're someone who keeps their promises to themselves or someone who doesn't. Be someone who does. Be someone who means what they say. Be someone who shows up for themselves no matter what. Be someone who refuses to quit, even when quitting would be easier. Listen up. You're not here because life is going great. You're here because something inside you is screaming that you're capable of more and you've been ignoring it. You've been playing it safe. You've been hiding. You've been that person who talks about what they're going to do someday while watching everyone else actually do it. That ends right now. You know what separates the people who make it from the people who don't? It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not connections. It's the willingness to become someone they've never been before, to step into a version of themselves that doesn't exist yet. Most people can't do that. Most people are so attached to who they are right now that they'd rather stay miserable than become different. They'd rather keep their comfort than chase their potential. That's not you anymore. Because if it was, you wouldn't still be here. You'd have quit already. You'd have found an excuse. You'd have convinced yourself that change is too hard, or that you're not ready, or that you'll start next Monday. But you're still here, and that means something in you is ready to fight. So here's the truth nobody wants to tell you. The person you are right now, that person is exactly why you're not where you want to be. Your current self, with all your current habits and thoughts and behaviors, is perfectly designed to give you the life you have right now. And if you keep being that person, nothing changes. You can read all the books you want. You can watch all the videos you want. You can talk about change until your face turns blue. But until you actually become someone different, you're just spinning your wheels. Becoming someone different isn't about adding new habits to your life. It's about destroying who you currently are and rebuilding from scratch. It's about looking at every single thing you do, every choice you make, every thought you have, and asking, does this belong to the person I'm trying to become? And if the answer is no, you kill it. Right there. No hesitation. No second chances. Gone. You wake up at 7. The new you wakes up at 5. You scroll on your phone for an hour every morning. The new you doesn't touch it until the work is done. You skip workouts when you don't feel like it. The new you shows up especially on those days. You make excuses when things get hard. The new you doesn't speak that language. Every single pattern that got you here needs to be obliterated, because those patterns are the enemy. Those patterns are what's keeping you trapped. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this sounds extreme. You're thinking maybe you just need to make some small adjustments. Maybe you just need to try a little harder. Maybe you just need to be more consistent with what you're already doing. That's the old you talking. That's the voice of the person who's been failing. Don't listen to it. Small adjustments create small changes. You don't want small changes. You want a complete transformation. And transformation requires you to be someone you've never been before. Think about the life you actually want, not the life you tell people you want. The life you think about at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep. The life you daydream about when you're stuck in traffic or sitting at a job you hate. That life exists, but it doesn't exist for the current you. It exists for a future version of you. A version that's harder, stronger, more disciplined, more focused, more relentless. That version doesn't exist yet. You have to create them. And the only way to create them is to kill who you are right now. This isn't motivational. This is survival. Because staying who you are right now is slow death. It's watching years pass by while you stay the same. It's looking in the mirror at 40 or 50 or 60 and realizing you never became who you were capable of becoming. It's dying with your potential still inside you. That's the real tragedy. Not that you failed, that you never really tried, that you spent your whole life being a weaker version of what you could have been. You think you're protecting yourself by staying comfortable, by not pushing too hard, by keeping things balanced. You're not protecting yourself. You're sabotaging yourself. You're choosing a slow, comfortable decline over a hard, uncomfortable climb. And at the end of your life, that comfort isn't going to mean anything. You're not going to look back and be grateful that you took it easy. You're going to look back and wish you had given everything. So give everything. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now, this moment. Stop reading and actually do something. Go work out until your legs shake. Go work on that project you've been avoiding. Go make that phone call you're scared to make. Do something that the old you would never do. Prove to yourself that you're not that person anymore. Prove that when you say you're going to change, you actually mean it. Because here's what most people do. They get fired up. They get motivated. They make all these plans about how they're going to change their life. And then they wake up the next morning and do the exact same things they've always done. They hit snooze. They waste the morning. They make excuses. They tell themselves they'll really start tomorrow. And tomorrow never comes. They live their entire life in that cycle. Getting motivated, making plans, doing nothing, feeling guilty, getting motivated again. Round and round, year after year, until one day they realize they're out of time. Don't be that person. Be the person who actually does it. Be the person who says they're going to change and then changes. Be the person who draws a line and never crosses back. Be the person who commits fully, completely, with everything they have. Because that's the only way this works. Half commitment gets half results. And half results aren't going to cut it. You either go all in, or you don't go at all. Going all in means your life looks different starting today. Your morning routine changes. Your evening routine changes. The way you spend your free time changes. The people you spend time with changes. The content you consume changes. The conversations you have change. Everything shifts. Because you're not trying to improve your life. You're trying to build a completely new one. And you can't build something new using old materials. Your old friends who want to party every weekend? Gone. Your old habit of watching TV for 3 hours every night? Gone. Your old pattern of starting things and not finishing them? Gone. Your old excuse about not having enough time? Gone. All of it needs to be eliminated, not reduced. Not managed, eliminated, because the new you doesn't have room for any of that. The new you is too focused, too driven, too committed to the mission. And yeah, people are going to have a problem with this. They're going to say you've changed. They're going to say you're no fun anymore. They're going to say you're taking things too seriously. Good. You have changed. You're not supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be focused. And you are taking things seriously because your life is serious. Your potential is serious. Your dreams are serious. Anyone who can't understand that doesn't deserve to be in your circle. The new you doesn't explain yourself to people who aren't on the same path. You don't justify your decisions. You don't defend your choices. You don't try to make people understand why you're up at 5 in the morning while they're still sleeping. They won't get it. They can't get it. Because they're not trying to be great. They're trying to be comfortable. And comfortable people never understand hungry people. Stay hungry. Stay uncomfortable. Stay in that space where you're constantly pushing beyond what you think you can handle. Because that's where growth happens. Not in your comfort zone. Not in that safe space where everything feels manageable. In the chaos. In the struggle. In those moments where you're not sure you can keep going, but you keep going anyway. That's where you find out what you're actually made of. You're made of more than you think. You're capable of more than you've shown. You can handle more pain, more pressure, more work than you've ever asked yourself to handle. But you'll never know that if you keep playing it safe. You'll never discover your real capacity if you keep setting limits on yourself. The limits you think you have aren't real. They're just stories you've been telling yourself for so long that you started believing them. Break those stories. Shatter those limits. Go so far past what you think you're capable of that you can't even recognize yourself anymore. Run until you can't feel your legs. Work until your eyes burn. Study until your brain hurts. Push until you break through every ceiling you've put on yourself. Because on the other side of that breaking point is a version of you that's unstoppable. But you have to be willing to break first. You have to be willing to destroy the comfortable, safe version of yourself. The version that knows exactly what to expect. The version that has everything figured out. The version that never risks anything because they're too scared to fail. That version needs to die. Not metaphorically. Actually die. You need to kill it so completely that it can never come back. How do you do that? You make decisions that old version would never make. You take risks they would avoid. You have conversations they would run from. You put yourself in situations where you have no choice but to be different. You sign up for things before you feel ready. You commit to goals that scare you. You burn the boats, so there's no option to go back. You make it impossible to be who you used to be. And when things get hard, when you want to quit, when every part of you is screaming to go back to the old way, you don't listen. You keep moving. You keep pushing. You keep showing up. Because the person you're becoming doesn't quit. The person you're becoming doesn't look for easy. The person you're becoming was forged in the fire of moments like this. Moments where it would be so much easier to give up. Moments where no one would blame you for stopping. Moments where the pain of continuing seems greater than the pain of quitting. Those are the moments that matter. Those are the moments where you find out if you're serious or if you're just playing. Everyone can work hard when they feel good. Everyone can push when they're motivated. Everyone can show up when things are going well. The real test is what you do when everything hurts. When you're exhausted, when you've got nothing left. Do you quit or do you find a way to keep going? The answer to that question determines everything. It determines whether you're actually transforming or just pretending. It determines whether you're building something real or just putting on a show. It determines whether the old you is actually dead or just sleeping. Because the old you will try to come back in moments of weakness, in moments of doubt. In moments when you're tired and scared and wondering if all this effort is worth it, the old you will whisper that it's okay to stop, that you've done enough, that you can try again later. Don't believe it. It's a trap. The moment you stop is the moment you lose everything you've built. All the early mornings, all the late nights, all the sacrifices, all the work, gone. Because transformation isn't something you do for a while and then stop. It's something you become, and you become it by never, ever going back to who you were. You want to know the secret? There is no secret. There's just work, brutal, relentless, daily work, work that never ends, work that doesn't care about your feelings, work that doesn't take breaks, work that demands everything you have and then asks for more. That's the price, and most people aren't willing to pay it. They want the results without the cost. They want the transformation without the pain. They want to become someone different without actually having to be different. You're not most people. You're here because something in you knows you're meant for more. Something in you refuses to settle. Something in you would rather die trying than live wondering what if. That's the fuel. That's what's going to carry you through when everything else fails. That voice inside you that knows you're capable of greatness. Listen to it. Trust it. Follow it even when it leads you into darkness. The darkness is where you grow. The darkness is where you build strength. The darkness is where you become someone you never thought you could be. Everyone else is looking for the light, looking for the easy path, looking for comfort and safety and certainty. You're different. You're not looking for light. You're looking for the fire that burns away everything weak, everything soft, everything that doesn't serve the person you're becoming. Step into that fire. Let it burn. Let it hurt. Let it destroy every part of you that isn't strong enough to survive. Because what comes out the other side isn't you anymore. It's someone better, someone harder, someone who's been tested and proven, someone who knows that they can handle anything because they've already survived the worst thing possible. They survived killing who they used to be. That's the real battle. Not against the world, not against circumstances, not against other people, against yourself, the version of you that wants to quit, the version that wants to give up, the version that wants to go back to easy. That version is your real enemy, and every single day is a war against that enemy. You either win or you lose. You either move forward or you fall back. There's no middle ground. So win, every single day. Win the morning by getting up when you said you would. Win the workout by pushing past when it hurts. Win the work session by focusing when you want to be distracted. Win the evening by going to bed on time instead of wasting hours. String together enough wins and you become unstoppable. String together enough wins and you look back and realize you're not even the same person anymore. That's the goal. To look in the mirror 6 months from now and not recognize yourself. To have people from your old life see you and be shocked by the change. To become so different that there's no question whether the transformation was real. It's undeniable. It's obvious. It's permanent. But it only happens if you start. If you stop reading and start doing. If you stop planning and start executing. If you stop being who you were and start becoming who you need to be. That decision happens now. Not later. Now. Right this second. You either commit fully or you walk away. You either go all in or you stay exactly where you are. What's it going to be? Are you going to be another person who talks about change but never changes? Another person who gets fired up for a day and then goes back to normal? Another person who dies with their potential still locked inside them? Or are you going to be someone who actually does it? Someone who transforms completely? Someone who looks back on this moment as the day everything changed? The choice is yours. Make it count. Because here's what nobody tells you about transformation. It's not a one-time decision. It's a decision you make every single hour of every single day. You wake up and decide. You face a challenge and decide. You get tired and decide. You get discouraged and decide. Every moment is a choice between who you were and who you're becoming. And the person who wins is the person you choose most often. Most people choose the old version. They choose it when they hit snooze. They choose it when they skip the workout. They choose it when they eat the junk food. They choose it when they watch another episode instead of working on their goals. They choose it 100 times a day and then wonder why nothing changes. You can't choose the old you 99 times and the new you once and expect transformation. It doesn't work like that. You have to choose the new you more than you choose the old you. Way more. Like 99 to 1 in favor of the new you. That's when things start to shift. That's when the momentum builds. That's when you start to actually become someone different instead of just thinking about it. And yeah, that's exhausting. Yeah, that requires constant awareness. Yeah, that means you can never coast. Welcome to greatness. This is what it costs. Everyone wants to be great until they find out what great people actually do. They work when everyone else is sleeping. They train when everyone else is partying. They study when everyone else is relaxing. They sacrifice when everyone else is indulging. They push when everyone else quits. And they do it not for a week or a month or a year. They do it for decades. They do it until it's not even a choice anymore. Until it's just who they are. That's what you're aiming for. Not to be someone who works hard sometimes. To be someone who can't operate any other way. Someone who feels wrong when they're not pushing. Someone who gets uncomfortable with comfort. Someone who's addicted to progress the way most people are addicted to distraction. That's the transformation. Not changing what you do. Changing who you are at the core level. And to do that, you need to get brutally honest with yourself. Not the version of honesty where you acknowledge you have problems but then make excuses for them. Real honesty, the kind that makes you uncomfortable. The kind where you look at your life and admit that most of your problems are self-created, that you're not a victim, that you're exactly where you chose to be through thousands of small decisions. That's hard to accept. It's easier to blame circumstances, to blame other people, to blame bad luck or bad timing or bad genetics. But blame doesn't change anything. Blame keeps you stuck. Blame gives your power away to things you can't control. The moment you accept that you created this, you realize you can create something different. But you have to own it first. All of it. The good and the bad, the successes and the failures, the progress and the setbacks. You own the fact that you've been wasting time. You own the fact that you haven't been giving your best. You own the fact that you've been scared. You own the fact that you've been making excuses. You own all of it, and then you use that ownership as fuel, because when you stop blaming and start owning, you take your power back. You realize that if you created this mess, you can create something better. You're not helpless. You're not stuck. You're just making poor choices, and choices can be changed. So change them, right now, today, this moment. Make a different choice. Make the hard choice. Make the choice that scares you. Make the choice that the old you would never make. And then make another one, and another one. String together enough hard choices, and you'll look up one day and realize you're living a completely different life. A life you chose. A life you built. A life that reflects who you decided to become instead of who you used to be. But you can't wait for it to feel right. You can't wait for the perfect moment. You can't wait until you're ready, because you'll never feel ready. Ready is a myth. Ready is what people who are scared tell themselves so they don't have to take action. You're as ready right now as you'll ever be. You have everything you need. You know what needs to be done. The only thing missing is the decision to actually do it. Make that decision. Commit to it fully. Don't leave yourself an exit. Don't give yourself a way out. Burn the bridges. Cut off the retreat. Make it impossible to go back to who you were. Because the moment you leave yourself an option to quit, you will. When things get hard, when you're tired, when you're scared, you'll take that exit. You'll go back to comfortable. You'll go back to safe. You'll go back to the old you. Don't give yourself that option. Make this transformation the only path forward. Tell people about your goals so you have accountability. Invest money you can't afford to lose so you have skin in the game. Create consequences for failure so the cost of quitting is higher than the cost of continuing. Stack the deck in favor of the new you. Make it harder to stay the same than it is to change. And when you feel like quitting, when every part of you wants to stop, remember why you started. Remember the life you're trying to build. Remember the person you're trying to become. Remember that the old you got you nowhere. Remember that playing it safe left you miserable. Remember that comfortable equals stuck. Remember that you have one life and you're wasting it being less than you're capable of being. That should make you angry. That should light a fire inside you that can't be put out. The fact that you've been settling. The fact that you've been playing small. The fact that you've been letting fear run your life. That should piss you off enough to do something about it. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Get up and do something. Anything. Just move. Just act. Just prove to yourself that you're serious this time. Because here's the thing about transformation. It's not complicated. It's just hard. The steps are simple. Wake up early. Work out. Eat right. Do the work. Stay focused. Be consistent. Cut out distractions. Set goals. Track progress. Adjust when needed. Repeat every single day. That's it. That's the whole formula. Anyone can understand it. But most people can't execute it. Because execution requires becoming someone different. Someone harder. Someone who doesn't negotiate with themselves. Someone who does what needs to be done regardless of how they feel. That's the person you need to become. Not someone who works hard when they feel motivated. Someone who works hard especially when they don't. Not someone who pushes when things are going well. Someone who pushes when everything is falling apart. Not someone who's disciplined sometimes. Someone who's disciplined always. No exceptions. No excuses. No days off from being that person. Because the moment you make an exception, you open the door for more exceptions. You skip one workout and suddenly it's easier to skip the next one. You sleep in one morning and suddenly the alarm doesn't mean what it used to. You make one excuse and suddenly excuses become your default language. You can't give yourself any slack. You can't cut yourself any breaks. The standards have to be absolute, non-negotiable, written in stone. And yeah, that sounds extreme. Yeah, that sounds like too much. Good, because extreme is what's required. Extreme commitment, extreme discipline, extreme focus, extreme work ethic. You're trying to do something most people never do. You're trying to completely transform who you are. That's not a normal goal. That's not something you achieve with a normal approach. You need to go to extremes. You need to do things that regular people would call crazy. You need to operate at a level that doesn't make sense to anyone who isn't trying to be great. Let them call you crazy. Let them say you're doing too much. Let them think you've lost your mind. They're not wrong. You have lost your mind. You've lost the mindset that kept you stuck. You've lost the thoughts that held you back. You've lost the beliefs that limited you. And in place of that old mind, you're building a new one. A mind that doesn't know limits. A mind that doesn't accept excuses. A mind that sees obstacles as opportunities. A mind that gets stronger with every challenge. That's the mind of someone who's killed who they used to be. Someone who's burned their old identity to the ground and built something better from the ashes. Someone who looks at their past self and doesn't recognize that person anymore. That's where you're headed. That's who you're becoming. But you have to choose it every day. Every hour, every moment, you have to choose to be that person over and over until it's not a choice anymore, until it's just who you are. And when you get there, when you've truly transformed, when you look back and can't believe you ever lived any other way, you'll understand that killing who you used to be was the best thing you ever did. Because that person was holding you back. That person was keeping you small. That person was standing between you and everything you're capable of. And now they're gone. and you're free. Free to be who you were always meant to be. Free to achieve what you were always capable of achieving. Free to live the life you were always supposed to live. That freedom doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from internal transformation, from becoming someone who doesn't need permission, doesn't need approval, doesn't need perfect conditions, someone who makes it happen regardless, someone who finds a way, someone who doesn't know how to quit. That's freedom. That's power. That's what you get when you kill who you used to be and become who you need to be. So stop waiting. Stop planning. Stop thinking about it. The time is now. The moment is here. You have everything you need to start. You know what needs to be done. The only question is, will you do it? Will you actually become someone different? Will you actually kill who you used to be? Or will you read this, get fired up for a minute, and then go back to being the same person you've always been? The choice is yours, but choose quickly, because every day you stay the same is a day you'll never get back. Every day you don't transform is a day wasted. Every day you spend being who you used to be is a day stolen from who you could become. Stop stealing from your future self. Stop betraying your potential. Stop being less than you're capable of being. Kill who you used to be. Do it now. Do it completely. Do it so thoroughly that there's no going back. And then become the person you were always meant to be. The person who doesn't settle. The person who doesn't quit. The person who does whatever it takes. That person is waiting. That person is ready. That person is watching to see if you're serious. Show them you are. Show them by taking action right now. Show them by becoming different, starting this moment. The old you is dead. Long live the new you. You want to become someone you respect? Then stop lying to yourself about who you are right now. Look, I'm not here to pat you on the back and tell you you're already great. You're not Lothus because everything's going perfectly. You're here because there's a gap, a space between who you are and who you know you could be. And that gap, it's eating at you. Good. Let it. That discomfort is the only thing that's going to move you. Here's what nobody tells you about becoming someone you respect. It's not about adding things to your life. It's about cutting away everything that's making you weak. It's about looking in the mirror and asking yourself the hardest question you'll ever ask. If I met myself at a party, would I want to be friends with me? Most people can't answer yes to that question. Most people know they're not living up to their own standards. They know they're settling. They know they're making excuses. They know they're choosing comfort over growth every single day, and it kills them. Slowly, quietly, but it kills them. I've been there. I've been the person who talked big and did nothing. I've been the person who had all these plans and zero execution. I've been the person who looked at others succeeding and told myself it was luck or connections or timing. Anything but the truth. And the truth was simple. I wasn't doing the work. I wasn't being the person I needed to be. You know what changed? One morning I woke up and I was disgusted with myself. Not sad, not disappointed, disgusted. I looked at my life and I realized I was living like someone I wouldn't respect if they were anyone else. If my friend was living like I was living, I'd tell them to get it together. If my brother was making the choices I was making, I'd call him out. But when it was me, I gave myself a pass. Every single time. That stops now. That stops today. That stops the second you decide you're done being someone you can't respect. Let me tell you something about respect. Real respect. Not the fake stuff where you post quotes on social media and pretend you're doing something. Real respect comes from keeping promises to yourself. It comes from doing the thing you said you'd do when nobody's watching. It comes from showing up when it's hard and staying when it's harder. You want to respect yourself? Start keeping score. Start tracking whether you're doing what you said you'd do. Because right now, if you're honest, you're probably breaking promises to yourself every single day. You say you're going to work out. You don't. You say you're going to start that project. You don't. You say you're going to stop wasting time on your phone. You don't. And every broken promise chips away at your self-respect. Every single one. Think about the people you respect. I'm not talking about celebrities or athletes. I'm talking about real people in your life. The ones you look at and think, that's someone I admire. What do they have in common? They do what they say they're going to do. They're consistent. They're disciplined. They don't make excuses. They don't blame circumstances. They take responsibility for their lives and they move forward. Now think about yourself. Are you doing that? Are you being that person? Or are you still waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect feeling to get started? Here's the thing about becoming someone you respect. It's not complicated. It's just hard. It requires you to make decisions that feel uncomfortable in the moment, but right in the long run. It requires you to say no to things that feel good now, but take you further from who you want to be. It requires you to be honest with yourself about where you're weak, and then do something about it. Most people can't handle that level of honesty. They'd rather lie to themselves and stay comfortable than face the truth and change. They'd rather blame their parents, their circumstances, their luck, their genetics, anything but themselves. And that's why most people don't become someone they respect. Because respect requires taking ownership, full ownership, no exceptions. I remember when I first started trying to change, I had this moment where I realized I was spending hours every day on things that didn't matter, just burning time, scrolling, watching, consuming, and I'd tell myself it was relaxation. I'd tell myself I deserved it. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was avoiding the work. I was avoiding the discomfort of actually trying to build something. I was choosing easy over important, and every day I did that, I lost a little more respect for myself. So I made a decision. I decided that for 1 month, I was going to track everything, every hour, every choice, every moment where I had to decide between what felt good and what was good for me. And you know what I discovered? I was weaker than I thought, way weaker. I was giving in to comfort constantly. I was taking the easy path over and over again, and seeing it laid out like that, black and white, no excuses. It hit me hard. But that's when things started to change. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Once you know you're living below your standards, you can't pretend anymore. You either accept that you're going to be someone you don't respect, or you do something about it. I chose to do something about it, and it sucked. It sucked for weeks, months. Because changing who you are isn't a one-time decision. It's 1,000 decisions. It's every moment where you choose the harder path. It's every time you push through when you want to quit. It's every sacrifice you make that nobody sees and nobody applauds. But here's what happens when you stack enough of those moments together. You start to change, not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly. You become someone different, someone stronger, someone more disciplined, someone who keeps their word, someone you can actually respect. And once you get a taste of that, once you know what it feels like to look in the mirror and genuinely respect the person looking back at you, you'll never want to go back, because that feeling is worth more than any amount of comfort. It's worth more than sleeping in. It's worth more than the party you skipped. It's worth more than the Netflix show you didn't watch. It's worth everything. Let me tell you what becoming someone you respect actually looks like in practice. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagram worthy. It's getting up when you don't want to. It's doing the work when you don't feel like it. It's saying no to distractions. It's being alone when everyone else is out. It's making choices that feel wrong in the moment but you know are right for who you're trying to become. It's studying when your friends are partying. It's training when your body's exhausted. It's working on your business when everyone else is relaxing. It's having difficult conversations instead of avoiding them. It's facing your fears instead of running from them. It's being honest instead of comfortable. You think the people you respect got there by accident? You think they just woke up one day and they were disciplined, successful, strong? No, they made choices, thousands of choices. Choices that separated them from everyone else who wanted the same things but wasn't willing to pay the price. And that's the real question, isn't it? Are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to do what it takes to become someone you respect? Not just want it, not just wish for it. Actually do the work, actually make the sacrifices, actually change your behavior. Because wanting to be better is easy. Everyone wants to be better, but being better, that requires something most people don't have. It requires the willingness to be uncomfortable for a long time. It requires the discipline to keep going when you're not seeing results. It requires the humility to admit you're not there yet and the courage to keep working anyway. I'll tell you what I see most often. People who want to change but aren't willing to give up anything to get there. They want to be fit but won't change their diet. They want to be successful but won't work the extra hours. They want to be disciplined but won't cut out the distractions. They want to be someone they respect but won't do anything that makes them uncomfortable. That doesn't work. You can't have the results without the process. You can't have the person without the transformation. You can't have the respect without earning it. And earning it means doing things you don't want to do. It means showing up on the days you feel terrible. It means pushing through when every part of you wants to quit. It means being consistent when consistency is boring. It means being disciplined when discipline is painful. Let me paint you a picture. It's 5 in the morning. Your alarm goes off. You plan to work out before work, but your bed is warm. You're tired. You worked late yesterday. You could easily sleep another hour and work out later. Except later never comes. You know it. I know it. We all know it. This is the moment. This is where you either become someone you respect or you don't. Because if you get up, if you do the workout, if you keep that promise to yourself, you win. Not in some big dramatic way, but you win. You prove to yourself that you can be trusted. That when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And if you don't, if you hit snooze and roll over and tell yourself tomorrow, you lose. You lose respect for yourself. You prove that your word doesn't mean anything, that your commitments are optional, that when things get hard, you fold. Now multiply that moment by 1,000, by 10,000. That's what becoming someone you respect looks like. It's all those little moments where you either step up or you don't, where you either keep your word or you break it, where you either choose growth or you choose comfort. The people you respect, they chose growth, over and over and over again, in moments nobody saw, in ways nobody noticed. They built themselves through consistency and discipline and sacrifice, and that's why you respect them, because they earned it. You want that for yourself? Then earn it. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the right time. Stop waiting for things to get easier. They won't. It's always going to be hard. The question is whether you're going to be hard too. Here's what I learned that changed everything for me. Your life is a direct reflection of the standards you're willing to accept. If you're accepting mediocrity in your health, your career, your relationships, your daily habits, then that's what you'll get. Mediocrity, and you can't respect mediocrity. Nobody can. But if you raise your standards, if you decide that you're not going to accept less than your best effort, if you commit to being excellent even when nobody's watching, that's when things change. That's when you start becoming someone you can respect. I'm not talking about being perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. I'm talking about being intentional. I'm talking about having standards and living up to them. I'm talking about doing what you said you'd do, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. You know what kills most people? They set these big goals. They get all excited. They tell everyone what they're going to do. And then 2 weeks later, when the excitement wears off and the work gets hard, they quit. They move on to the next thing, the next goal, the next plan. And they wonder why they never respect themselves. It's because they're not finishers. They're starters. And starting is easy. Finishing is where respect is earned. Think about something you quit, something you started with all this energy and then abandoned when it got difficult. How do you feel about that? Do you respect that decision? Or does it eat at you? Does it remind you that when things get tough, you fold? Now think about something you finished, something you saw through to the end even when it was hard, even when you wanted to quit, even when nobody would have blamed you for walking away. How do you feel about that? Different, right? Because finishing something hard builds respect. Quitting something hard destroys it. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep being the person who quits when things get uncomfortable? Or are you going to become the person who pushes through? The person who finishes what they start? The person who does what they say they're going to do? Because here's the truth. You already know what you need to do. You already know the habits you need to change. You already know the work you need to put in. You already know the excuses you need to stop making. You know all of it. The information isn't the problem. The execution is the problem. And the only way to fix execution is to execute. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when circumstances are perfect. Now, today, this moment, you start becoming someone you respect by making one choice right now that aligns with who you want to be. Maybe it's getting up and going for a walk instead of sitting on the couch. Maybe it's starting that project you've been putting off. Maybe it's having that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's throwing away the junk food in your kitchen. Maybe it's deleting the app that's wasting your time. I don't know what it is for you, but you do. You know exactly what that first step is. So take it, right now. Not after you finish hearing this, not after you think about it more. Now, because every moment you wait is another moment you're not being the person you want to be. Another moment you're choosing comfort over respect. And I get it, change is scary. It's uncomfortable. It's uncertain. But you know what's scarier? Waking up 10 years from now and realizing you're still the same person, still making the same excuses, still breaking the same promises to yourself, still living below your potential. That's terrifying. That's a nightmare. But it doesn't have to be your reality. You can change the trajectory right now. You can decide that today is the day you stop accepting less than what you're capable of. That today is the day you start becoming someone you respect. Let me tell you about discipline. Real discipline. Not the motivational poster version. The actual lived experience of being disciplined. It's unglamorous. It's repetitive. It's boring most of the time. It's doing the same things over and over, even when you're not seeing results. It's showing up every single day, whether you feel like it or not. It's being consistent when consistency feels pointless. But that's the secret. That's what separates people who change from people who stay the same. Discipline, not motivation, not inspiration, not feeling good about yourself. Discipline, the ability to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. You want to respect yourself? Build discipline. Start small. Pick one thing you're going to do every single day for 30 days. Not 10 things. One thing. Maybe it's making your bed. Maybe it's working out for 20 minutes. Maybe it's writing for 15 minutes. Whatever it is, do it every day. No exceptions. No excuses. And watch what happens. Watch how doing that one thing consistently starts to change you. Watch how keeping that promise to yourself builds confidence. Watch how discipline in one area starts to bleed into other areas. Watch how you start to become someone who keeps their word. Because that's what this is really about. It's about integrity. It's about being someone whose actions match their words. It's about being someone who can be trusted, especially by yourself. And when you can trust yourself, when you know that if you commit to something, you'll see it through, that's when you start to build real self-respect. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's easy. It's not. There are going to be days where you want to quit, where you're tired, where you don't see the point, where it feels like all this work isn't making a difference. Those days will come. They come for everyone. But those are the days that matter most. Those are the days where you either prove to yourself that you're serious or you prove that you're not. Those are the days where champions are built, not the easy days, the hard ones, the days where you show up anyway. And here's what nobody tells you. It gets easier, not because the work gets easier, but because you get stronger. Your discipline muscle grows. Your tolerance for discomfort increases. Your ability to push through resistance improves. You become someone who can handle hard things. And that's someone you can respect. Think about the hardest thing you've ever done. The thing that tested you, that pushed you to your limits, that made you question whether you could actually do it. Now think about how you felt when you finished it. When you proved to yourself that you were capable of more than you thought. That feeling, that's what we're chasing. That's what becoming someone you respect feels like. But you can't get that feeling from easy things. You can't get it from staying comfortable. You can't get it from doing what you've always done. You get it from pushing yourself, from stepping into the unknown, from doing things that scare you, from becoming more than you currently are. So what scares you? What's the thing you've been avoiding because it's too hard or too uncomfortable or too uncertain? That's where you need to go. That's where growth lives. That's where the version of yourself that you can respect is waiting. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation with someone you care about. Maybe it's admitting you were wrong. Maybe it's asking for help. Maybe it's setting a boundary. Maybe it's ending a relationship that's holding you back. Maybe it's beginning something new when you're terrified of failing. Whatever it is, that's your next move. And I know you don't feel ready. Nobody ever feels ready. You think the people doing great things felt ready when they started? They didn't. They were scared. They were uncertain. They doubted themselves. But they did it anyway. They moved forward despite the fear. And that's what made them someone worth respecting. You have that same capability. You have the same choice. You can let fear keep you small, or you can push through it and become bigger. You can stay comfortable and hate yourself for it, or you can get uncomfortable and respect yourself for trying. The choice is yours. It's always been yours. But understand this. Time is passing whether you're growing or not. Every day you're either becoming more or staying the same. There's no neutral. You're either building or you're coasting. You're either getting stronger or getting weaker. You're either becoming someone you respect or someone you don't. And the crazy thing is, most people choose to stay the same. Most people choose comfort over growth. Most people choose to avoid the hard work of becoming better. And then they wonder why they don't respect themselves. They wonder why they feel stuck. They wonder why other people are succeeding while they're not. It's because those other people made different choices. They chose the hard path. They chose to be uncomfortable. They chose to do the work when nobody was watching. They chose to keep going when everyone else quit. That's the difference. That's the only difference. So stop looking at other people and wishing you had what they have. Stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Stop making excuses for why you're not where you want to be. Just start doing the work. Just start making better choices. Just start becoming someone you can respect. And I promise you this, 6 months from now, if you actually commit to this, if you actually do the work, if you actually become disciplined and consistent and intentional, you're going to look back at today and you're going to be proud. You're going to respect the decision you made right now. You're going to thank yourself for starting. But if you don't start, if you keep putting it off, if you keep choosing comfort, 6 months from now, you're going to be in the same place and you're going to wish you had started today. You're going to regret waiting. You're going to hate yourself a little bit more for not taking action when you had the chance. Don't be that person. Don't let future you down. Future you is counting on present you to make the right choice, to take the first step, to commit to becoming better. Don't disappoint them. Here's what I want you to understand. Becoming someone you respect isn't about achieving some massive goal. It's not about becoming rich or famous or successful by some external measure. It's about living with integrity. It's about keeping promises to yourself. It's about doing what you say you're going to do. It's about being someone you would want to be around, because at the end of the day, you're the only person you can't get away from. You're stuck with yourself, so you better make sure you're someone you can stand to be around. You better make sure you're someone you respect, because if you don't respect yourself, nothing else matters. No amount of success or money or recognition will fill that hole. But if you do respect yourself, if you know you're doing your best, if you're living up to your own standards, then even when things are hard, even when you're struggling, even when you're failing, you'll be okay. Because you'll know you're showing up. You'll know you're trying. You'll know you're being the person you need to be. And that's not nothing. That's everything. That's the foundation everything else is built on. Self-respect, self-trust, self-discipline. Those aren't luxuries. Those are necessities. Those are what allow you to build a life worth living. So let me ask you again. If you met yourself today, would you respect yourself? Would you want to be friends with you? Would you admire the choices you're making? Would you look at your life and think, that's someone who's got it together? If the answer is yes, great. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep building. Keep growing. Keep becoming better. But if the answer is no, if you know you're not living up to your potential, if you know you're making choices you wouldn't respect in someone else, then it's time to change. It's time to stop making excuses. It's time to start doing the work, because you deserve to respect yourself. You deserve to be proud of who you are. You deserve to look in the mirror and see someone you admire. But you're not going to get that by accident. You're not going to wake up one day and magically respect yourself. You have to earn it, day by day, choice by choice, action by action. And the beautiful thing is, you can start right now, this moment. You can make one choice right now that moves you toward being someone you respect, and then another choice, and another. And slowly over time, you become that person. Not perfectly, but genuinely. You know what the real tragedy is? It's people who have all this potential and never use it. People who could be so much more but choose to stay small. People who know what they need to do but never do it. That's heartbreaking. Because the world needs people who are living up to their potential. The world needs people who respect themselves enough to become their best version. And maybe that sounds dramatic. Maybe you think it doesn't matter that much. But it does. Because every person who chooses to become better, to do the work, to live with integrity, makes the world a little bit better. Every person who respects themselves enough to keep their word, to be disciplined, to push through resistance, inspires others to do the same. You think your life doesn't matter? You think your choices don't impact anyone else? They do, every single day. The people around you are watching. They're seeing what you do. They're noticing whether you keep your word. They're observing whether you're disciplined or lazy, whether you're growing or stagnating. And they're making decisions about their own lives based on what they see. So, be someone worth watching. Be someone worth emulating. Be someone who shows others what's possible when you commit to becoming better. Be someone you respect, not for them, for you. Because you're the one who has to live with yourself. You're the one who has to look in the mirror every day. You're the one who knows the truth about whether you're really trying or just going through the motions. Make it count. Make your life count. Make your choices count. Make this moment count, because it's all you have, right now. This moment, this choice, this opportunity to become someone you respect. Don't waste it. Don't put it off. Don't make excuses. Just start. Just do the work. Just become the person you know you're capable of being. The person you would respect. The person you would admire. The person you would want to be. That person is in you right now. They're just waiting for you to make the choices that bring them out. They're waiting for you to be disciplined enough, consistent enough, brave enough to become them. They're waiting for you to stop settling and start demanding more from yourself. So what are you waiting for? What's stopping you? What excuse are you holding on to that's keeping you from becoming who you need to be? Let it go. Let all of it go. The excuses, the fear, the comfort, the hesitation. Let it all go and just start. Start becoming someone you respect. Start today. Start now. Start with one choice, one action, one step forward, and then take another step, and another, and keep going, keep building, keep growing, keep becoming, until one day you wake up and you realize you're living a life you respect, you're being a person you admire, you're making choices you're proud of, and that feeling, that knowledge that you're doing your best, that you're showing up, that you're becoming better, that's worth everything. That's what this is all about. Becoming someone you respect, not someone else respects, not someone the world thinks is successful. Someone you respect, someone you're proud to be, someone you can trust, someone who keeps their word, someone who does the work, someone who doesn't quit, someone who earns their own respect through discipline and consistency and courage. Be that person. Become that person. You have everything you need to start right now. So start. Your future self is counting on you. Don't let them down. Listen, I need you to really hear this next part, because this is where most people lose the plot. This is where they nod along and agree, and then go right back to their old patterns. Don't be that person. You want to know why respect is so hard to earn from yourself? It's because you know all your secrets. You know every time you took the shortcut. You know every promise you broke. You know every excuse you made. You can lie to everyone else, but you can't lie to yourself. Not really. You might try, but deep down, you know the truth. And that truth either builds you or destroys you. There's no middle ground. I see people all the time trying to negotiate with themselves, trying to find the easy way, trying to figure out how to get the results without putting in the work. And I get it. I really do. We all want the shortcut. We all want the magic pill. We all want to wake up transformed without having to go through the transformation. But that's not how any of this works. That's never been how it works. And pretending otherwise is just another way of lying to yourself, another way of losing respect for who you are. You know what I realized? The people I respect most in my life, they're not the most talented, they're not the smartest, they're not the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who kept showing up, the ones who took hit after hit and got back up, the ones who failed and learned and tried again. The ones who didn't quit when quitting would have been easier. That's it. That's the whole thing. Persistence in the face of difficulty. Consistency when it would be easier to be inconsistent. Discipline when discipline is the last thing you feel like having. And here's what's wild. Most people have experienced this at least once in their lives. Most people have had at least one moment where they pushed through something hard and came out the other side better for it. They know what it feels like. They know what it takes. But then they stop. They achieve one thing and they coast. They prove to themselves they can do it, and then they never do it again. And that's even worse than never trying at all. Because now you know what you're capable of. Now you know you're choosing not to be that person anymore. Why? Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you show yourself what's possible and then deliberately choose less? I'll tell you why. Because it's hard. Because maintaining that level of discipline and effort and consistency requires something from you every single day. It requires you to make sacrifices. It requires you to say no when you want to say yes. It requires you to keep going when stopping would feel so much better. And most people aren't willing to pay that price long term. They'll pay it for a month, maybe 3 months, maybe even a year, but then they go back, they slip, they convince themselves they deserve a break, and that break turns into a week, that week turns into a month, that month turns into a year, and suddenly they're right back where they started, wondering what happened. What happened is they stopped doing the things that made them someone they could respect. They stopped keeping their promises. They stopped showing up. They stopped being disciplined, and slowly, piece by piece, they lost the respect they'd built. Don't let that be you. Don't be the person who proves they can do it and then stops doing it. Don't be the person who knows what they're capable of and chooses to be less anyway. Because here's the thing, once you've tasted what it's like to respect yourself, once you know what it feels like to be someone you're proud of, going back is torture. Living below your potential when you know what you're capable of is one of the most painful experiences you can have. So if you're going to start this journey, if you're going to commit to becoming someone you respect, commit all the way. Don't do it halfway. Don't give yourself an out. Don't plan for failure. Plan for success and then do whatever it takes to make that plan a reality. I want to talk about something that nobody likes to discuss. The cost. The real cost of becoming someone you respect. Because there is a cost. There's always a cost. And if you're not willing to pay it, you need to be honest with yourself about that right now. The cost is your comfort. The cost is your free time. The cost is your social life, at least for a while. The cost is sleep sometimes. The cost is saying no to things you want to do because you have to do things that are more important. The cost is being misunderstood. The cost is being alone when everyone else is together. The cost is working while others are playing. That's the price. That's what it costs. And you have to decide if you're willing to pay it. Most people aren't. Most people hear that and they think, that's too much. I don't want to give up all that. I want to have balance. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my life. And that's fine. That's your choice. But then don't be surprised when you don't become someone you respect. Don't be surprised when you're still in the same place 5 years from now. Don't be surprised when other people pass you by, because they were willing to pay the price you weren't. You can't have it both ways. You can't have the results without the sacrifice. You can't have the transformation without the pain. You can't have the respect without earning it. And earning it hurts. It's supposed to hurt. If it was easy, everyone would do it. If it didn't cost anything, it wouldn't be worth anything. The fact that it's hard is what makes it valuable. The fact that most people quit is what makes finishing so powerful. So ask yourself right now, are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to give up comfort for growth? Are you willing to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow? Are you willing to do what most people won't so you can have what most people don't? If the answer is yes, then keep going. Keep pushing. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work. If the answer is no, then at least you're being honest with yourself. At least you know. And maybe that honesty is the first step toward eventually being ready to pay the price. But don't lie to yourself. Don't pretend you're going all in when you're not. Don't say you want to change and then refuse to change anything. That's the worst thing you can do. That's how you lose all respect for yourself. Not by failing, by lying about trying. Let me tell you about a moment I had. I was sitting in my room one night, and I realized I'd been working toward this goal for 6 months. 6 months of showing up every day. 6 months of discipline. 6 months of sacrifice. And I still wasn't where I wanted to be. I wasn't even close. And I had this thought that maybe it wasn't worth it. Maybe I was wasting my time. Maybe I should just quit and do something easier. Something that would give me faster results. Something that wouldn't require so much from me. And I sat with that thought for a while. I really considered it, because quitting would have been so easy. Nobody would have blamed me. Nobody even knew what I was working on. I could have just stopped and moved on and nobody would have known the difference. But I would have known. I would have known that when things got hard, I quit. I would have known that I wasn't someone who finishes what they start. I would have known that my commitment meant nothing, and I couldn't live with that. I couldn't respect someone who gives up when things get difficult. So I didn't quit. I kept going, even though I didn't want to, even though I was tired, even though I wasn't seeing the results I wanted. I kept going because quitting would have destroyed the respect I'd been building for myself. And you know what happened? Things got better. Not immediately, not the next day or even the next week, but slowly, over time, things started to shift. The work got easier. The results started to show. The sacrifice started to pay off. But none of that would have happened if I'd quit. None of that would have happened if I'd chosen comfort over commitment. I would have been right back where I started, with zero respect for myself and zero progress toward becoming who I wanted to be. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The moments when you want to quit are the moments that define you. The moments when it feels like nothing's working are the moments where you're actually making the most progress. The moments when you're ready to give up are the moments where you need to double down. Because on the other side of that pain, on the other side of that difficulty, on the other side of that desire to quit, that's where the person you respect is waiting. That's where the transformation happens. That's where you earn the right to look in the mirror and be proud of who you see. But you have to get there first. You have to push through. You have to keep going when every fiber of your being is telling you to stop. And I'm not going to lie to you. Some of you won't make it. Some of you will quit. Some of you will read this, feel inspired for a day or two, and then go right back to your old life. And that's okay. Not everyone is ready. Not everyone wants it bad enough. But some of you will make it. Some of you will take this seriously. Some of you will actually do the work. Some of you will become someone you respect. And for those people, your life is about to change in ways you can't even imagine right now. Because when you respect yourself, everything changes. Your confidence changes. Your relationships change. Your opportunities change. Your entire life trajectory changes. Not because of some external shift, but because of who you've become. People can sense it. They can tell when someone respects themselves. They can see it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, in the decisions you make, in the boundaries you set, in the standards you maintain. And when you respect yourself, others respect you too. Not because you're trying to impress them, not because you're performing, but because there's something different about someone who genuinely respects themselves. There's a solidity, a confidence, a certainty that can't be faked. That's what you're building toward. That's the goal. Not some external achievement, not some arbitrary milestone. The goal is to become someone you genuinely respect, someone you're proud to be, someone whose word means something, someone who does what they say they're going to do. And once you become that person, once you've built that foundation of self-respect, everything else becomes possible. The goals you've been chasing become achievable. The life you've been dreaming about becomes realistic. The person you've wanted to be becomes who you are. But it all starts with this decision, this moment, this choice to stop settling and start demanding more from yourself. This choice to stop making excuses and start taking action. This choice to stop being someone you can't respect and start becoming someone you can.